Hello everyone and welcome to Azam Shar Weekly. And in this video, I'm going to show you that how you can handle events which are coming from SwiftUI into your UIKit application. So already you can see that this is a UIKit application. I have a view controller, I have a storyboard and all that stuff. And the situation is something like this. I have a ratings view control. This control is in SwiftUI. And what we want to do is we want to use this control into our UIKit application. And also we want it to be functional without, and here's the constraint, without changing anything in the ratings view control. In the rating view control, we cannot edit anything. That's our constraint. Why we cannot edit anything? Well, let's just assume that this rating view control is used in other parts of our application. They're already using it. And for some reason, we have to now create a view controller and we have to use it over there also without changing anything. So how would we even accomplish that part? All right. So the first thing which will be really helpful to do in this case is it would be nice for us that if our view controller is displaying in Xcode preview. I always like to do this because I would like to see what this view controller kind of looks like right now. So we can actually make this happen. We can simply go ahead and say struct view controller. This is not really necessary, but I like this because I like to see what my view controller looks like in Xcode previews. And just like SwiftUI, I can see in SwiftUI what it looks like. You can see all of this. This part basically is creating Xcode preview, and now I can see how it actually looks like. So I want to do the same thing, but I want to do it for my view controller. So I can also do that. So view controller representable, this will be UI view controller representable. There we go. And I believe I need to add UIKit on the top. So I'll import SwiftUI on the top. And now UI view controller representable is basically a protocol. So we must conform to it. So let's go ahead and see protocol over here. The first thing is that what is a type for the view controller type? It's just view controller. The other two functions that we need to implement is make UI view controller, which is going to return us the view controller itself, and the update UI view controller, which is going to update, but we're not really doing anything for updating, so I'm just going to leave it blank. Now that we have the view controller representable, I can now go ahead and create our previews. So I'm just going to call this view controller underscore previews. Okay, and we will go ahead and say it will be a preview provider with one static property called previews, just like you do in SwiftUI. And this is going to give us the view controller representable. Actually, I don't really like the underscore part of it, so I'm just going to remove that part. There we go. And this is going to allow us to view our view controller in Xcode previews. So let's go ahead and take a look at the Xcode previews. And this is how it looks like. This is how your view controller looks like. If I go ahead and change the background color of the view to something, you will see that the Xcode previews is going to change also. So this is really good. As you can imagine, if you're creating something programmatically, you can immediately add the code and see what's going on. Okay, so now our question becomes, well, we have the rating view. How do we add this rating view to our screen? That is a question we need to answer, right? Well, let's go ahead and first remove the green color and think about that how we can add a rating view. Well, a rating view is basically a SwiftUI view. In order to add a SwiftUI view into our view controller, we need to have a UI hosting view controller. So right in the view.load, and you can create a different method for it, that's perfectly fine. I'm just going to go ahead and create a rating hosting controller, which will be a UI hosting controller, and I can pass in the root view, and guess what? The root view will be the rating view. So ratings view. Now over here, I do have to provide the rating, and that becomes a little bit interesting because what rating would I provide over here? Well, let's start with just providing constant rating of 4. Obviously, this is not correct because we do want to change the rating. We want to get the rating in our view controller. But just to get started, we can simply pass in the rating of 4. Now we have the rating hosting view controller. We can actually get the view related to that. So I'll just call it rating view, and I'll say rating hosting controller.view. This is at least going to give us the view. Now we can say rating view. This is just a UI view, by the way. Translate false, and then view.add subview rating view. And you can already see the rating view kind of like getting displayed. The other thing that we need to do is we need to make sure that this rating hosting controller is actually added as a child controller. So I can go ahead and say self.addChild, and I can add the rating hosting controller as a child controller so that the life cycle of the view that it is managing, which is the rating view, is managed correctly. And the rating hosting controller did move into the parent, which is self. Self in this case is obviously the view controller. So everything kind of works. That's perfectly fine. We can add a little bit more constraints to it for our rating view so that it displays in the middle. So let's go ahead and add some constraints. Constraints, we're just adding it so that it kind of, we can see it properly. So center x constraint dot equal to the view dot center x constraint. So we just want everything to be centered, not only in x-axis, but also in the y-axis. So let's go ahead and change that to the y-axis also. There we go. Okay, looks good actually, right? And it is showing us whatever 4 ratings because we passed in 4. But now the problem is, obviously this rating 4, we want to pass in the binding because that's what the rating view is actually taking. If you open up the rating view, you can see that we need to pass in the binding. Now we can't really pass in the binding over here because we don't have access to the binding. I mean, this is a view controller. This is a UI view controller. This is not SwiftUI. So what can we do in this situation? Well, we can create an observe object and pass that. That will work, but it's not going to refresh your rating view. So that's not going to work either. So one of the ways that you can solve this problem, and pretty much the only way I can think of, is by adding some sort of a container view. What does that mean, a container view? Well, we can go ahead over here, or in your rating view file, if you want that, is perfectly fine too. What we will do is we will add a rating view over here. So this is up to you wherever you are adding this code. Rating container or rating view container. That's a much better name, I think, which is simply a view. Now this view will have a body property, and that is going to render the rating view. And in the rating view, we need to pass in the binding. So I can go ahead and use observed object over here, var rating, and I can use rating. So some sort of observed object that I can build. So let's go ahead and create a rating and an observable object. And this will have one single property, which will be value. And initially we'll assign it to be like 0 or something. And so this becomes our kind of like a model with a value called value. That will be the actual rating value. And now we can actually pass in this rating.value as a binding property. And instead of using our rating view over here, what we can do is we can use the rating container view. So the root view, instead of rating view, we will simply use, instead of this, we will use a rating container view. This one. All right. Now, when you're using a rating container view, you need to pass in the rating. And rating, we can access over here. Rating, we can create a new instance of that. So I can go over here and I can say private var rating, which is of type rating. And that is something that I can pass in over here. That's perfectly fine. Okay. So instead of injecting the rating view, we are now injecting the rating view container, and the rating view container injects the rating view. But since we are also injecting in order to create the rating view container, you need to pass in the rating, which is an observable object. That particular observable object can be created right in our view controller and then pass it. Okay. Okay, so let's see that what happens if I select. Now you can see that this is working perfectly fine. It's even refreshing. So what exactly happened is that when you select something, the rating view is passing the rating to the rating view. The rating view container is passing the rating to the rating view. Whenever I select something, this particular binding thing changes, and then the rating view is rendered again, and it shows us on the screen that it is rendered again. All right. Now, if I want to provide some default value, I can go over here and say, let's say initially it will be like 3 stars or something, so that it will reflect 3 stars when you start. Great. Now, one of the things that we want to do is whenever I select a rating and I'm inside the view controller, I want to be able to get access to, well, the rating. I mean, 3, 4, whatever you're touching, whatever you're tapping. So what we can do is we can create rating dot value. You can see it's a publisher event in Combine. So we can hook it up to sync, and we will get the actual value in this case, which will be the actual rating. So I'll just call it value. All right. And we will use a weak self over here. Once you get the value, we will go ahead and unwrap this. And you can print it on the screen over here on the output or on the terminal, but we want to display it. So for that, we will go ahead and probably create another control over here. Let's say a lazy var rating label. This will be a UI label. And whatever you want to do. So label equals to UI label. We create a new UI label, label.false. This is fine. And then we will check out the different fonts. So font equals to label.font.width size. And we just want it to be a little bit bigger. So I'm just going to say 40. And then don't forget to return the label that you just created. Inside over here, once we get the value, this is the actual rating that you're getting. We can go ahead and assign it. So rating label.text and assign it so that it can be displayed somewhere on the screen. But before we do that, we still need to add the rating label to the view. So probably we can do it over here, view.add subview. And we can say rating label. Okay, let's see if it appears on the view somewhere. Let's select something. Okay, it's not really appearing. And oh, no, not the rating view, sorry, the rating label. The rating view is already added. Okay, so there we go. If you can see that right over there. Well, we can go ahead and add some constraint to it so that it's kind of like in the middle. So rating label center, not vertically. I want it only to be horizontally centered. There we go. Perfect. And now when we're selecting, weirdly enough, okay, so now when we're selecting, it's not really changing anything. So let's go ahead and see what this is all about. This is basically saying that the result of the sync is unused. So basically returning a publisher, and we're not really keeping track of that publisher. For that, I'm just going to go ahead and import Combine. So we need to get a hold of a reference to that. Private var cancelable, any cancelable, and we're just going to make sure that we have access to that. Cancelable. Okay, and there we go. Now you can see it's working great. We have our rating view that is in SwiftUI, and it is updating a label that is in UIKit. So I think this is great. And the way that we were able to accomplish this is by creating a rating view container that was responsible for not only displaying the rating view control, but also allowing it to refresh whenever the binding was changing, but whenever the value was changing. So this was a great technique to do. So there you have it. You can handle the SwiftUI events in your UIKit application. If you like this video and want to support my channel, then check out my courses on Udemy. I have a lot of courses which covers iOS development, including my brand new course with building reminders application clone with SwiftUI and core data. You will learn about different patterns, working with core data, sending notification, and a lot more stuff. I also have courses on SwiftUI in general, meaning if you just want to learn SwiftUI. Apart from that, you can see that I have the best-selling course on the core data in iOS and a lot more courses. So definitely check out these courses. And the best way to check out these courses, if you go to my website and click on the courses, you can get a link. You can see all of these links for the courses. So you can check it out from there and you'll get the best deals. All right. Hope you like this video. Thank you. Share it, like it. Thank you so much and see you next time.